It's Sunday.
It is Sunday Scoops.
Sunday Scoops.
And we just want to tell you a pleasant good afternoon. Welcome to a day that we celebrate a man called Big Youth, Order of Distinction.
Listen, you know, what I wanted us to do, to bring him into the picture, is to play a song that most Jamaicans who know Big Youth would be familiar with, especially the dancehall aficionados, a big tune called I Pray Thee. And we roll in. Today, too, we're going to be having a special guest, Dr. Dennis Howard. Dennis Howard, for those who are new to Sunday Scoops, has been a regular guest on the program and a man who is credited with being there at the foundation days of IRA FM, one of the first radio stations that anywhere in the world that played 100% reggae music. And so we're gonna be having Dr. Howard joining us, but let's get the show on the road. We wanna just to introduce the man himself, the great Big Youth, Order of Distinction.
Yeah, this is one of my favorite songs on this album, Tree of Sata with the Abyssinians. Big Youth, with his performance of Psalm number 2.
Youth. What name? Manly Augustus
Buchanan.
Yes.
In America, they say Buchanan.
Buchanan. you say Buchanan in Jamaica, man, wonder who you talking about. But
it's like,
Big Youth.
It's like Horace.
Yeah, them say Horace.
No, we say Harris and them say Horace.
Yeah, well, Big Youth was born in Kingston, in Raytown in Kingston. I say somebody writing that Big Youth born at Trenchtown. Big Youth
born at Trenchtown.
Born in Raytown, 1A Water Street to be exact. And as he said himself, his mother was also his father. One of 5 children, and from early out, he had an interest in the music. And I just want to say to our listeners who are just joining that we will have Dr. Dennis Howard. I think Dennis is on the phone. We are going to bring him into the picture shortly. Dennis is a man who, as a downtown Kingston man, and particularly with his old man, Jimmy Solo, and his big sound system. Dennis is a big sound system man too. We're going to have Dr. Howard participating in our discussion, a big fan and friend of Big Youth as well. But just to lay the foundation for our listeners, Big Youth ultimately moved over to Matthews Lane. He said he had to move because his mother was a churchwoman, and every yard that she lived in, she wanted to keep a church. And so because of the church thing.
I think it was more about the collection than the church.
No. In those days, it was more the church thing. But so he grew up within this Christian background, but he decided from early out that that's not where he wanted to go. And he wanted to do music. And more importantly, his knowledge because of his Christian connection, so to speak.
Right.
He was pretty versed in the Bible. And so you will see that becoming part of the theme of his own DJ style and DJ approach.
Remind me of Desmond Dekker.
Yeah, but he was even more extreme because he said, you know, while his mother wanted him in the church, that wasn't where he wanted to go. And so he opted, you know, from early to take on to infuse his religious underpinning, if you will, but with a Rastafari slant, because to him, Rasta was basically the uniter part of the youngsters, particularly that side in Kingston. Spent a lot of time at, you know, early out, up-and-coming sound system. He did some work, he said, with a little sound system called Down South the President, right? And him and his friend Errol Scarcher did a early
ramp with the roach.
There you go. Right? So if you know that tune, you know Errol Scarcher. But Big Youth had a big impact on the music. Ultimately, he himself was impacted by people like Uri.
Dennis Al Capone,
Dennis
I-Roy.
Absolutely. Although he threw some shade after them in him. So when he came into the DJ business, the chicka bow wow thing was working.
Once you're in any kind of creative arena, Arms House is the order of the day. If you go to a studio and you can't take mouthing, there's no place for you there. If you work a mechanic shop or a barber shop, any kind of creative process, if you can't take mouthing, you can't survive.
Let me see if we can bring in.
If you get nickname and you don't like the nickname, it stick with you for life.
Absolutely. Let's bring in Dr. Howard. Dr. Howard, are you there?
How are you doing, man?
Not so bad at all. Welcome to Sunday Scoops. Well, you're regular, no, you're family.
Dr. Howard, good afternoon, sir.
Absolutely. How are you doing, sir?
Well, I'm there and give thanks, in a paradise, a rainy paradise, but it's paradise nonetheless.
Yes,
it's raining cats and dogs and cows and pigs.
No,
that means I have no food for Thanksgiving, man.
Listen, Dennis was an old-time Rasta from a long time, He just never wear the dreadlocks like himself, right? But Dennis, we're talking about Big Youth, and this past week, last week Monday, at National Heroes Day ceremony, the government and people of Jamaica accorded Big Youth with the honor, the title Order of Distinction. I know you have had some experiences with Big Youth. Your take?
Well, listen, I've known him all of my life. He and my father are great friends until this day. And when my father had that famous, still existing Jazzot, but it was at the second location, which was on Rose Lane. And Big Youth used to play Tippertone with Jawai at Jazzot.
Right.
So I knew him before he became a DJ. And then there is this interesting story that I'll tell. There, I knew him so much that I lived in the east. A lot of people think I come from West Kingston. I only have association with West Kingston.
Right.
Yeah. So I live in Central Kingston actually.
Yes.
I lived in Central Kingston on Rum Lane. And we had a family house on Rum Lane. And there was this friend of ours. My mother had a friend who started to live with us. Her name is Barbara Johnson. But Barbara Johnson is actually from Pink Lane and Charles Street. So she would go to her mom's house in the evenings and then come home in the evening to our house on Rum Lane. And how I got to know Big Youth again, apart from being with my father, was that Big Youth used to follow Barbara every day, religiously, just accompanied her to kind of protect her from West Kingston all the way to Rum Lane. He decided that it wasn't okay for her to walk alone.
Right.
And the beauty about it, there was no ulterior motive. It wasn't like, oh, I am doing this because I want to check you and I like you. He was just one of those guys, and a lot of people don't know that about Big Youth. He is one of them persons that were very caring and behave like him. Him is the protector for everybody. So every evening I would see Big Youth following Barbara, and all him do is as she reach in, him turn back and go back to West. Then I'll tell you the story just to continue that the side of Big Youth that a lot of people don't know. When Dennis Brown, 9-year-old Nestel told me that when Dennis Brown was sick with tuberculosis for the first time and was up at the National Chest Hospital, Nine told me that every day religiously while Dennis was in the hospital, Big Youth prepared steamed fish and okra and juice for him. and gave it to 90. Told 90 that he wasn't coming up there, but him have to make sure the youth get some good food. And him say religiously Big Youth was the man who prepared food for him and also asked about him every time to make sure that he was okay. So that is the man I know. And I knew him as the selector of
Tipper Tone sound.
Tipper Tone.
Yes.
But I know him as a bad man too.
Yeah, he spoke about that. And we're gonna revisit that. We just want to touch to early tune, just to keep the thing going and keep the vibes. He got one of his first, what we call it, an early tune from him was Movie Man of Errol Dunkley's Movie Star. In fact, let's play the tune and then we come back to that.
But we're going to do a couple of songs. We're going to do Movie Man, the best Big Youth, and the moving version that he did with a couple of selectors, that those songs never really went anywhere. So we're going to do the three songs real quick. And that was moving version. Before that you heard the best Big Youth, and we started out with his debut single,
Movie Man. Movie Man he did with Gregory Isaacs when they had that African museum label. In fact, this was, he would have been working with, what's his name? Jimmy Radway, One Foot Jimmy.
Yeah, and the best Big Youth, he did say that production by the one, L. Radway.
But Jimmy Radway he produced Errol Dunkley's Movie Star, and he said, according to Big Youth, he said Radway came to him because Radway wanted to bust him, but apparently he never felt that Radway was serious, and so Gregory Isaacs approached him with Movie Man, and because they had this quasi-partnership, so to speak, with Errol Dunkley and Gregory Isaacs had this partnership with Dennis. What was the name of the record shop? African Museum. Right, and so that was the shop and the label was African Museum. And he decided to go out with it, but from all indications, none of the songs really got anywhere. But it was clear, and if you talk about Tipper Tone Dennis, you hear that DJ sound system, DJ style. You know, I as a youngster down at KC, I used to go take in the occasional Tipper. Tipper Tone a big sound. In fact, it became known as Lord Tipper Tone Hi-Fi in those days, and you basically get a sense of where the influence was coming from.
Absolutely.
He then went on and did some work with Perry. Apparently, well, of course, the Gregory Isaacs thing never worked out ultimately, and so I guess he wasn't too trusting a One Foot Jimmy neither. So he basically move and go to Pratt, which is who he did moving with Phil Pratt. And then there's another tune called Tell It Black, right?
Yes, with Phil Pratt.
Which he also did with...
And he also did a song called, off the Dennis Brown cover of Black Magic Woman, Phil Pratt thing.
Yes. Right. So, but this is Big Youth getting his start. And, one thing for me, Dennis, when I heard that the government, decided to go to accord him the status, the honor. It was long overdue, in my opinion.
Absolutely. Listen, Big Youth is I tell people, sometimes we are so fortunate to have so many great entertainers and not only entertainers but artists who have influenced the global picture in terms of music that we take them for granted, and Big Youth is one of them. Big Youth was the first person. Big Youth was the first person to articulate a message in DJing. Everybody else, what was just, including the great Uri, which we love, and is another phenomenal talent that is underlooked, as you have looked at him in depth.
Absolutely.
The thing is, he was the first man. During these days, it was mostly a nursery rhyme kind of approach to DJing. and basically supporting the vocals, or even if it is a DJ tune by itself, by Al Capone or U2 Roy or any other the early pioneers. It was just more a frivolous kind of light-hearted type of thing. But Big Youth was one of the first persons to kind of articulate a message, whether the message is about our everyday life or about spirituality and Rastafari. He was the first one. Big Youth was the first man to flash a lot on a stage. That was a tremendous moment in history, you know?
Yeah,
because remember, people who were Rastas were
kept it under
marginalized,
they kept it covered,
villainized. Yeah, they were the scourge of the earth. They were looked down upon. And imagine this DJ come on stage and take off him
and flash him locks. The dread flash him locks and a lightning clap and a weak drop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We take these things with light, you know, we take them now as performance. But it was more than performance in them time. You're talking about the 60s and 70s. It was a statement, it was a defiance. And so listen, we as Rasta, they are so, and we're not going anywhere.
In fact, with that, Dr. Howard, we're going to a perfect segue into his next song, Tell It Black. And then we'll just go straight to Phil Pratt thing and then The Killer, and we can come back to this.
Got you. Because we want to come back to this. This Rasta thing is a very important part of the discussion, and that is one of the reasons for me why this order of distinction is so important, so significant. Take it away, Garth.
Definitely.
And we're back. Yes, Dr. Howard, we're talking about black consciousness and Prince Buster being the most radical in terms of his outlook in the music.
Dennis?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, man, I'm back here. Yeah, so I say that is the context in which Big Youth start to move and got a lot of proposition to move in terms of moving towards Rastafari, you know, because at one point his mother never talked to him, you know. She stopped talking to him because him turned Rasta.
That was a Jamaican society given the period too, because
his mother never talked to him. But despite the fact that she didn't stop talking to him for a little while, he carried the principles that his mother taught him in terms of the Christian way, but the kind of Afrocentric type of you know, Christianity or theology, as we would call it. Yeah. So him covered all of this in the music. And I tell you, Big Youth is almost like a little shaman. He embraced a lot of our traditional kind of philosophy and spirituality and what we call ontology in academic circles, and a cosmology, you know, a worldview about how things should be.
And to a certain extent, those viewpoints, once you have a certain level of consciousness, I think that's endemic, especially in us Jamaicans. We tend to just reach out and embrace that kind of thing. Yeah. And then with our education, back in the day when civics used to be taught in school, and there was so much emphasis on our national heroes, and also, as I said, Pocomania and any kind of naturalist spirituality that was there. We embraced that a lot more than the Protestantism.
I wish we would go back to that point right now, because I tell you, because of neoliberal capitalism and globalization, we are losing a lot of our identity, and we don't even realize.
Well, listen, to just so refocus, because you know you guys correct. Dennis, Big Youth made a point, as he said when he got into the thing. You said it earlier to Dennis. Big Youth was a kind of a bad man still, you know, because he said the only way how he got into the music when he got a session, them don't want to give him a talk off of the mic. And so him just bad man on the thing and take out the microphone and then him say what made the difference. No, he channeled this Rastafari spirituality thing, and so all of his lyrics were based on the Rasta and the self-upliftment and thing. And him say what happened is, unlike radio, unlike in some studios, that's what the people at the dance wanted to hear, because they wanted to hear something different from the chickaboo thing.
Yeah, definitely.
Right?
And also from an anthropological aspect, in terms of what is happening in Jamaica, in the streets of Jamaica. I remember one particular song, because the mode of transportation for most Rastaman in the day was either a S90 or a Honda 50, a big head.
I beg to disagree. In the mode of transportation, Rastaman was bicycle.
Well,
motorcycle was almost... When a Rastaman, remember, S90 became a badman motorcycle eventually, you know, right?
Yeah.
It was Honda 50, then we call it Honda Big Head, and then S90. But that was for the Rastaman who hold on a bicycle job and can pick. I think Issa used to sell the motorcycle.
Yeah, man, Issa downtown.
Downtown Issa, right.
The point I was making, though, Richard, is we have our finger on the pulse of what's happening in Jamaica. And he realized that if you can't even afford a bike, the aspiration is to get one. Right?
Well,
therefore, this man had a song that had everybody in Jamaica dancing.
Me know say I introduce him when I introduce the song. It's not about take with the conversation with that.
But that's a brilliant segue.
And the first...
That's a brilliant segue, Garth.
It's a big segue, man. Him win. Me give him party.
Yeah, man, brilliant segue.
But the first thing you have to do in order to ride a bike, you have to have a towel in your back pocket.
And a red, green and gold.
And a red, green and gold
belt.
And then now you can dance to this song.
Yeah, Lion, you, Zion.
Hey, you know, as we hear the song, I remember me had a little girlfriend at Harborview, Riverside Drive, and basis go this lady, Hyacinth, Darby. We used to go to Darby's house, but across the street, my little girl living. So I had a guy who used to come check her, Jalide, and Jalide have a S90. And so your boy take on the S90 because me I try show off by my girl, you know. Well, let me tell you something. When me ride the bike, go up Riverside Drive and turn around in the Sunday, you know, man. The bike skid where left me in a box. Let me tell you, me have a cargo pants just come from the tailor, you know. Well, me have a cap that have a dash right. Cause the cargo pants tear up.
No need.
Me say shame like Dickens, you know. But to this song though, S90 Skank. When I think he did S90 Skank with what the producer, Keith Hudson, and they said they took a motorcycle into the studio to get that sound effect. Yes, give me the story.
All right, he's in the studio. Lego Beat, that is Trevor Douglas. Lego Beat was in the studio. So when they decided that they were going to do the song named S90. They decided to listen, Lego them say, listen, we need to have a bike. We can't just do S90 here, we don't have a bike. So they brought in a bike, a S90 bike, into the studio, and you hear things that say, here, Lion Youth, that is Lego.
Yes.
Lego, producer Lego, who still owns a studio down at Orange Street. So Lego go in the studio and make the noise with the bike and talk to Big Youth before the song starts. Yeah, man. So it's actually a true story that a bike was in the studio and it was Lego Beast and Big Youth having the dialogue at the introduction of the song.
When you hear that rev, so that rev in the thing was the actual bike in the studio, eh?
Yeah, man. Right in there.
Carbon monoxide. So irresponsible.
Nobody thought about that in those days, Bridget. But apparently, this S90 Skank stayed in the Jamaican the record charts for almost a year, or just about a year.
Yeah.
The song was #1 for about 20 weeks.
And it spawned other songs like Nama, Skank.
Absolutely. But
it's the most selected song on the jukebox for probably about 2 years, going strong.
God don't know about that. God's a big jukebox man, you know. But no, what he said too is that they were on the same day that they did S90 Skank, because they did they did about 5 tunes, because they went up to Prince Buster's studio and did a couple more tunes. So, but the S90 Skank really kick down the door and launch Big Youth's career in a seriously meaningful way as a big time DJ. What we want to do though is run a few more tunes that come out at the same period. Garth, where you have lineup?
And we have lineup. Can You Keep a Secret? Coming to My Parlor, Opportunity Rocks, Lego Beast after the great Lego Beast himself. Cain and Abel, Leave Your Skeng. Remember the way of
let's run a few tunes and just for the people who just joining us, you are in tune to Sunday Scoops, and we have on the line Dr. Dennis Howard, the esteemed guest, Dr. Dennis Howard. Dennis, we can't get into the titular introductions, but Dennis has been a big part of the development of Sunday Scoops, Jamaica's foremost ethnomusicologist. Did I get that right, Dr. Howard?
Perfect.
Absolutely. Let's give a listen to a couple pieces from the great Big Youth, Order of Distinction.
Quickly, if you're watching on Facebook Live, thank you so much for watching. Yard Media, and also mixlr.com/old school rules.
It's a bag of wire.
Don't wait.
Dennis, are you there?
Yeah.
I thought we had lost you. Yes. So man, we're hearing you loud and clear. Welcome back. So we were just looking at a couple of pieces because what Big Youth had done, unlike the typical DJ who take a rhythm and just throw some voice on it. What Big Youth is doing is taking a similar approach, but also developing his own musical style. This wasn't just him a chant on a tune. He literally was now getting to that point where he's producing his own material. And I think, you see what I call the transformation, where you're taking some music, Coming to My Parlor, that was a sort of a nursery rhyme saying, Come into my parlor, said the spider to the fly. And then you look at choose like Opportunity Knock. Again, music that is being built around existing tracks, but he is now infusing his own style on top of that.
Songs with the great John Holt, Leave Your Skeng.
Leave Your Skeng. Leave Your Skeng too was, again, remember, Big Youth come from Central Kingston, and it was the period we are now getting into the middle of the 1970s with the bad man thing, right? So if you come upon the ends, you come and dance, leave your skeng, eh? God, I laugh.
But leaving your skeng, back in the day, skeng was almost like your way of profiling and putting yourself forward. I mean, it's a bossy walk.
Yeah. It's a attitude, and basically when I say, we can do without the attitude, but we look like we're losing Dr. Howard. But that was, Big Youth basically finding him his run, if you will. This was one of a couple of songs that he did on the very same day that they did S90 Skank. He said they went over to Prince Buster, with whom he had a pretty good relationship with as well.
Right.
And then he talked about the relationship as well with him establishing himself now as a not only the Rasta influence, but again, that voice, that chanting position. Dennis is back. Dennis, you with us?
Hi there. If you enjoyed that clip, go on over to our website at yardmedia.com, where you can watch the entire broadcast at your leisure. And while you're there, why don't you check out our other reggae music features? And before you leave, pick up some of our Jamaican reggae merchandise, and hey, don't forget to tell your friends.